PlayStation 5 reveal was yesterday as of the time of this recording, and I thought it was really good. It was hell of a lot better than that last borefest of a presentation they had. We got a good look at some really cool looking indie games. Spider-Man Miles Morales was one of my highlights. Horizon Zero Dawn 2, or Horizon 2 something West, I forgot what it was called. And one of the worst kept secrets in the video game industry, Resident Evil 8. The game everyone knew was coming, but we didn't have any official news just yet. And I want to focus today on that game because clearly I adore Resident Evil, and I have some info directly from Capcom that I'm allowed to share. But before I get started, I'd like to introduce today's sponsor, my Patreon. If you'd like to help support the channel and allow me to continue creating content like this, you can join my Patreon for as little as the cost of a Jill sandwich a month. No, it's not the first time I've made that joke, nor will it be the last. Links in the description below, or you can head over to patreon.com/GamerThumbTV. I'd also like to thank my current patrons and channel members for their continued support. Thank you, fellow Stars members. If you dig into this stuff on the internet for a little while now, there's been some Resident Evil 8 leaks. Many of the claims have been BS, many have been accurate, especially the Resident Evil 8 Village ones with the werewolves. But I want to stress that you never know the full story until a Resident Evil game actually comes out. These games are never really what they seem when you first see them announced. One example I like to use is Resident Evil Revelations. I remember when that came out, some people were claiming that Chris was the villain.
You think you'll get away with this?
I already have, Jill.
Do you have it?
Maybe. You'll have to kill me to find out.
And when it actually came out, the scene everyone kept referring to was actually the scene where Chris is tied up to a chair, but in the actual game it's just a mannequin and it was all a trap. So again, leaks or not, we never know the full story, there's always more to it. There's been talks that there's going to be some kind of hallucination system in place, but keep in mind, that doesn't mean all the monsters you'll be facing are all going to be imaginary creatures. That'd be very Super Mario Bros. 2, it was all a dream style storytelling. They're not going to do that. There's going to be a viral biological component to it, and it's a direct follow-up from Resident Evil 7. The connections, the criminal syndicate essentially responsible for what happened in Resident Evil 7 are going to be involved, and the effects of the mold will be back too. And there's some very heavy Resident Evil 4 influences just by looking at this trailer and the environment. We'll be going back into the territory of cults, worship of monsters, and genuine discomfort. The trailer confirms one long-lasting rumor that's been splitting opinions down the middle. Ethan will be fighting werewolves, or at least biological monsters that happen to resemble werewolves. Let me address this point real quick because ever since this news came out during the leaks, I've been hearing so many people complaining that werewolves are not realistic to Resident Evil, and it makes no sense. Except the fact that there have been werewolves in the Resident Evil comics from before, even if they're not considered canon anymore. They still existed at a time. There was a werewolf in Resident Evil comics, which Barry calls a naked weirdo when he turns back into a regular human, and of course it's nothing supernatural, it's a virus. And there's also been giant human bat hybrids that Leon kills. Let me quickly remind everyone at some of the ridiculousness that the Resident Evil viruses have been responsible for. We've got a man that turns into a skeletal Tyrannosaurus Rex with an eyeball in the middle, who by the way later turns into a giant fly monster. We've got these long-armed chimpanzee hit squads that sound like panthers when you kill them, a giant troll from The Lord of the Rings, intelligent leeches that eat someone's brain then believes they are him, giant fleas called megabytes and gigabytes, wait until we see the terabyte version of that thing, and the TG virus that turns a man that looks like Sephiroth from Final Fantasy VII into an electric tyrant woman with built-in heels. But werewolves is where we draw the line in the sand of not being realistic to Resident Evil. Give me a break. I'm actually really interested at finding more out about whatever infection is causing these mutations. From the trailer you can see we're going back to a remote village, and we get a couple good looks at these werewolf creatures, but that's not the only enemy we see. I'm actually going to go ahead and name this virus the U virus. That stands for the Universal Monsters virus. Not only do you see werewolves, there's also these ladies that look incredibly pale, and if you look closely at the end you can see one of them drinking blood. They're vampires. viral vampires, probably, of some sort. There's a witch-like character who I'm just gonna call Baba Yaga. And this guy, he might as well be Van Helsing. This is Universal Monsters / Castlevania meets Resident Evil. I think we are going to get a lot of surprises in the story that we're not expecting, and it seems that Umbrella may or may not be back. But they're definitely involved in some form, at least their history to this place, because we do see their logo in the trailer. I'm hoping we start seeing the return of the old Umbrella, since the story behind Red Umbrella never got fully fleshed out, just kind of got introduced in Umbrella Corps, which was an awful game and did nothing to expand Umbrella's history. But Red Umbrella is hinted heavily that they're the underground version of the real Umbrella. Not to mention Blue Umbrella, that's supposedly cleaning up bioweapon messes, and Chris works for them, although Resident Evil 7 makes it clear that he doesn't trust them. He's working alongside them to kind of keep them in check. And speaking of Chris, he's back, actually looking like Chris this time. I love that they redesigned him after he was so ridiculously unrecognizable in Resident Evil 7. He looks so little like Chris that I was convinced he was Hunk posing as Chris. Now he looks like Resident Evil 6 Chris, but a little older, a little bit like he's had a bit too many eggs from Resident Evil 5, but he looks great. I mean, that's what happens when you age. You get a little thicker, you get a little more plush size. Everyone's been taking guesses at the story, including myself. At the beginning of the trailer, it says his story comes to a close. Some take this as Chris dies in the game. I don't look too much into this phrase. It could mean literally anything. The he they're referring to could be Chris, could be Ethan, could be some other character we don't even know about yet that's important to the story. We don't know. But let's see what Capcom has to say. I did receive some official communication from them explaining the overall plot. It is set a few years after Resident Evil 7. Ethan and Mia, the husband and wife from Resident Evil 7, settled down and are living a peaceful life together somewhere. One day, Chris shows up and disrupts their lives. You do see this in the trailer, so I assume this is the beginning of the game. He shows up with other people, likely Blue Umbrella soldiers for some reason, and he puts a couple caps in Mia's ass. Why? Some have taken this as Chris is the bad guy now. Thing is, we really don't know why he does this, and based on Chris's history in the series, he probably has a very good reason. Maybe it's not really Mia and some sort of clone, maybe she's reinfected, maybe she actually has been a bad guy this whole time and playing the role of an innocent wife. Let's not forget that she did tell Ethan in Resident Evil 7 that she was babysitting when she was really employed by a criminal organization creating bioweapons. Can't really judge much from the trailer as to why he shoots her. This moment also sends Ethan's life spiraling into chaos. He's devastated from his loss, and for some reason or another, he ends up in a remote, snow-capped village seeking answers. This is the official plot. And by the way, these are high-res images provided by Capcom. It's hard to appreciate the graphics watching a compressed 1080p YouTube stream. It's gonna look damn good, and it is only available on next-gen and PC. No PS4 version, no Xbox One versions, as of right now at least. The game releases in 2021 sometime. I'm hoping earlier in the year. After all, Resident Evil 7 was a January release. It's gonna be on Windows, PS5, Xbox Series X. And personally, I love that they decided to stick with the first-person view. Keep in mind that this is Resident Evil 8, the follow-up to 7. It's not another remake, so it's fine that they stuck with the first-person view. The remakes are still happening, and they're still sticking with the third-person angles on those. So let's go ahead and let both versions coexist. It does create more variety when it comes to different styles of gameplay. I do have some questions about VR support though. There's been no mention of it in Resident Evil 8, and barely any mention of VR at all when it comes to PS5. I really hope they do have VR support in this one, because playing Resident Evil 7 in VR compared to non-VR, two totally different experiences, and you cannot really grasp what that means until you experience it yourself in VR. But that's all I have for you today. As more official news releases on this game, I'll report on it, and I'm going to keep an eye out for this game until release, and you can bet I'm going to stream and review it. Leave me some comments down below on your thoughts. What did you think of the trailer? And are you as excited as I am about Resident Evil 8? Catch you guys later. Since you made it to the end of this video, I assume you enjoyed it, so why don't you go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss any new content. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, links in the description below, and if you'd like to support the channel, you can join my Patreon or become a channel member. This is Fabian, I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.